Blood dripped from Ngozi's hand onto the white tiles of her husband's office floor. She had gripped the lunch tray so tightly when she saw them together that the broken glass cut deep into her palm. But the physical pain was nothing compared to watching her husband kiss another woman while her unborn baby kicked desperately inside her swollen belly. "Obinna," she whispered, her voice breaking like a child calling for help. Her husband and his young secretary jumped apart. Amina quickly stood up from where she had been sitting on his lap, smoothing down her short dress with hands that shook. Obinna's shirt was wrinkled, his tie loose around his neck. They had been doing more than talking. "Ngozi!" Obinna's face went from shock to anger in seconds. "What are you doing here?" What was she doing here? She was bringing lunch to the man she loved, the man she had given up everything for, the man whose baby was growing inside her body right now, kicking and turning as if it could feel her heart breaking. "I brought you food," she said, looking down at the scattered rice and stew on the floor. The jollof rice she had woken up early to cook. The plantains she had fried until they were golden, just the way he liked them. All of it was now mixed with broken glass and her blood. "You should have knocked," he said, not even looking at her bleeding hand. "This is my office." Ngozi stared at this man she had married 3 years ago, the man she had fallen in love with at university, the man who used to hold her hand during long walks and tell her she was the most brilliant woman he had ever met, the man who had promised to love and protect her forever. "Sir." "I should go back to my desk," Amina said, her young voice trembling. "Yes, go," Obinna told her, but his eyes followed the girl as she walked past Ngozi without looking at her. When they were alone, Ngozi felt her legs growing weak. She was 7 months pregnant, and the baby was heavy. Her back ached constantly these days, and her feet were swollen. She had stopped working as a doctor to rest and prepare for their child. She had given up the career that made her famous across Nigeria and Ghana. She had given up everything to be here, in this moment, bleeding on his office floor. "How long?" she asked, her voice so quiet she wasn't sure he heard her. "What? How long have you been sleeping with her?" Obinna loosened his tie completely and sat back down in his chair. He looked tired, like a man carrying heavy burdens. But Ngozi had been carrying burdens too. She had been carrying his business problems, his stress, his dreams of success. And now she was carrying his child. 6 months, he said without looking at her. 6 months. Ngozi counted backwards in her mind. That meant it started right after she told him she was pregnant, right after she had given up her medical practice to focus on their family, right after she had chosen him over everything else in her life. "Why?" The word came out like a cry of pain. "Because you changed, Ngozi. You used to be someone important. Dr. Chidinma, the famous gynecologist. Now you're just a pregnant housewife who doesn't understand business." The baby kicked hard, as if it had heard its father's cruel words. Ngozi pressed both hands to her belly, trying to comfort the child who was still safe inside her, still protected from this harsh world. "I changed because I chose our family," she said, tears falling down her cheeks. "I chose you. And look where it got us. My business is failing, and I have a wife who can't help me anymore. I can help you. I'm still a doctor. I still have connections." Obinna laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "What connections? You've been out of medicine for 2 years. People forget quickly in business, Ngozi. They've moved on." If only he knew the truth. If only he knew that just last week she had received 3 calls from hospitals begging the famous Dr. Chidinma to consult on difficult cases. If only he knew that her new technique for painless childbirth was being discussed in medical conferences from Lagos to London. If only he knew that his struggling business could be saved by one phone call from his pregnant wife. But he didn't know. And as she stood there, watching him check his phone instead of caring for her bleeding hand, she realized something that chilled her to the bone. He didn't want to know. "I'm going home," she said, wrapping her injured hand in her wrapper cloth. "Good. Clean yourself up. And Ngozi?" He finally looked at her and his eyes were cold. "Don't come to my office unannounced again. This is a professional place." Professional. She almost laughed through her tears. There was nothing professional about what she had seen. As she walked through the outer office, Amina was back at her desk, typing on her computer. The girl was pretty and young, and not pregnant with swollen feet and a tired heart. The girl looked up as Ngozi passed and smiled. Not a guilty smile or an apologetic smile, a victorious smile. Ngozi made it to her car before she collapsed into sobs. Her hand was still bleeding, and the baby was kicking non-stop now, as if it could feel her distress. She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel and cried for the woman she used to be. The confident doctor who saved lives and earned respect. The woman who had dreams bigger than this parking lot, bigger than this pain. But as her tears fell, something else grew inside her chest, something cold and sharp and powerful. Her husband wanted the successful doctor, Chidinma, to save his failing business. He was about to learn exactly who that woman was. 3 days passed like a nightmare that wouldn't end. Ngozi sat in her empty house, staring at the baby clothes she had folded and refolded 100 times. Pink and blue and yellow outfits for the child who would soon call Obinna Daddy, the same man who was probably kissing Amina at this very moment. The baby had been restless since that terrible day in the office. It kicked and moved constantly, as if it could feel her broken heart. Sometimes Ngozi would place both hands on her belly and whisper, "I'm sorry, little one. Mama is trying to be strong for you." But she wasn't strong. She was dying inside. Her phone rang constantly. Hospitals calling for doctor, Chidinma's expertise, medical conferences requesting her presence, former colleagues wanting to discuss her latest research. Each time, she let it ring. What was the point? Her husband had made it clear that her medical career was ancient history. On Thursday morning, Obinna came home excited, more excited than she had seen him in months. "Ngozi, great news!" He was practically dancing around their living room. "I have the biggest meeting of my life today, right here in our house." She looked up from where she sat folding tiny socks. "What meeting?" "Investors from Abuja. They want to put serious money into my business, but only if I can secure a medical partnership. They specifically asked about Dr. Chidinma, you know, that famous gynecologist who developed the new childbirth technique." Ngozi's heart stopped. "Dr. Chidinma? Yes. Apparently, she's the key to everything. If I can get her to partner with my import business for medical equipment, these investors will give me everything I need." He was pacing now, his hands moving as he talked. "This is it, Ngozi. This is our chance to be rich. Our chance." As if he hadn't spent the last 6 months betraying everything that was ours. "Where will you meet them?" she asked quietly. "Here, in our living room. I want them to see that I'm a family man, a serious businessman with a stable home." He looked at her belly. "Having a pregnant wife will show them I'm responsible." Responsible. The word tasted bitter in her mouth. "What time are they coming?" 2 o'clock. I need you to make tea and small chops, then disappear upstairs. This is men's business." Men's business. About a woman doctor whose expertise they desperately needed. At exactly 1:45 p.m., Ngozi felt the first sharp pain in her lower back. She was arranging chin-chins on a plate when the pain hit so hard she had to grip the kitchen counter to stay standing. "Not now," she whispered to her belly. "Please, not now." But the baby had other plans. The pains came faster and stronger, each one making her gasp. She was only 7 months pregnant. It was too early. Something was wrong. By 2 p.m., when the investors arrived, Ngozi was having contractions every 5 minutes. She could hear Obinna downstairs, laughing and talking with important voices, discussing million naira deals and medical partnerships. "Gentlemen, let me tell you about Dr. Chidinma," her husband was saying. "She's exactly what we need for this venture." Another contraction hit, this one so powerful that Ngozi fell to her knees in the bedroom. She could feel wetness between her legs. Her water had broken. The baby was coming, and it was coming now. She crawled to the top of the stairs and called down, "Obinna!" The talking stopped. "Obinna, please, I need help!" She heard footsteps. Then Obinna appeared at the bottom of the stairs. His face was red with embarrassment and anger. "What is wrong with you?" he hissed in a loud whisper. "I told you to stay quiet. These are important people." "The baby is coming," she gasped. "I need to go to the hospital now." "The baby isn't due for 2 months. You're just having false contractions. Go lie down and be quiet." Another contraction hit, and Ngozi screamed. She couldn't help it. The pain was overwhelming. From downstairs, she could hear the investors murmuring among themselves. Obinna ran up the stairs, his eyes blazing with fury. "Are you trying to ruin my life? This is the most important meeting I've ever had, and you're up here making noise like a mad woman." "Please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "Something is wrong. I'm a doctor. I know when something is wrong." "You're not a doctor anymore," he shouted. "You're my wife, and right now you're embarrassing me in front of people who could change our lives." From downstairs, one of the investors called out, "Mr. Kalu, is everything all right up there?" Obinna looked at his wife, then at the stairs, then back at his wife. Ngozi saw the exact moment he made his choice. "Everything is fine," he called down. "My wife is just having some pregnancy discomfort. Women, you know how it is." The men laughed. Obinna grabbed Ngozi's arm and pulled her into the bedroom. "You will stay in here and keep quiet until this meeting is over. Do you understand me?" "Obinna, please. I'm bleeding. The baby will be fine. Stop being dramatic." He pushed her onto the bed and locked the bedroom door from the outside. Ngozi heard his footsteps going back downstairs, heard him apologizing to his guests, heard them resume their discussion about the brilliant Dr. Chidinma, whose partnership would make them all rich. Alone in the locked room, she felt another contraction building. This one was different, stronger, more urgent. She looked down and saw blood soaking through her dress. Her baby was dying, and her husband was downstairs talking about money. Ngozi's screams echoed through the locked bedroom as blood pooled beneath her on the white sheets. Each contraction felt like her body was tearing apart, but the physical pain was nothing compared to hearing her husband's laughter drifting up from downstairs. "Gentlemen, let me assure you that, Doctor, Chidinma is exactly the partner we need." Obinna's voice carried clearly through the thin walls. "Her revolutionary childbirth technique has made her the most sought-after gynecologist in West Africa." Another wave of agony crashed through Ngozi's body. She pressed her face into the pillow to muffle her cries, not wanting to give Obinna another reason to be angry with her. But something was terribly wrong. The bleeding was getting heavier, and the baby hadn't moved in the last 10 minutes. "Please, little one," she whispered, pressing both hands to her belly. "Stay with Mama. We need each other." From downstairs, she heard one of the investors speaking. "This Dr. Chidinma sounds perfect for our medical equipment venture. When can we meet her?" "Very soon," Obinna replied smoothly. "I'm working on arranging that meeting. She's selective about her partnerships." If Ngozi wasn't dying, she might have laughed. Selective. Her own husband was describing her as selective while she lay bleeding in their bedroom, locked away like a shameful secret. The contractions were coming faster now, each one bringing a gush of blood that soaked through the mattress. Ngozi had delivered hundreds of babies in her career. She knew the signs of placental abruption, knew that without immediate surgery, both she and the baby would die. She crawled to the bedroom door and pounded weakly with her fists. "Obina, please! The baby is coming now!" The voices downstairs stopped for a moment, then resumed in lower tones. Someone was asking if everything was all right. "My wife is having some discomfort," she heard Obina explain. "You know how women can be during pregnancy? Very emotional." The men chuckled knowingly. Ngozi slumped against the door, her strength fading with each heartbeat. She could feel her life slipping away, and with it, the life of her unborn child. The child she had given up everything to protect. The child her husband was now sacrificing for a business meeting. Her phone was on the bedside table, just out of reach. If she could call for help, maybe the ambulance could break down the door. Maybe they could save the baby, even if it was too late for her. She crawled across the blood-soaked carpet, each movement sending lightning bolts of pain through her body. Her fingers closed around the phone just as another massive contraction hit. The pain was so intense that darkness crept around the edges of her vision. She could hear her heartbeat slowing, could feel the baby's distress. This was it. This was how she would die, alone, locked away, while her husband entertained business partners downstairs. But as consciousness slipped away, one thought burned bright in her mind. They want Dr. Chidinma. They need her expertise, her reputation, her revolutionary technique. And they have no idea she's dying right above their heads. When Ngozi woke up, she was in a hospital bed surrounded by bright white lights. A doctor she didn't recognize was checking her pulse, his face grave. "Mrs. Kalu, you're awake. I'm Dr. Emeka. You've been unconscious for 6 hours." The first thing she noticed was how flat her belly looked under the hospital sheet. The second thing she noticed was the terrible silence where her baby's heartbeat should be. "My baby," she whispered, though she already knew. Dr. Emeka's expression confirmed her worst fears. "I'm very sorry. We did everything we could, but the delay in getting you medical attention. The placental abruption was too severe. We couldn't save the child." The world shattered around her. Everything she had sacrificed, everything she had given up, had been for nothing. Her baby was dead because her husband had locked her in a room to impress business partners. "How did I get here?" she asked, her voice hollow. "Your husband brought you in around 8 p.m. He said you collapsed suddenly." Dr. Emeka hesitated. "Mrs. Kalu, I have to ask, why didn't you come in earlier? You're a gynecologist. You would have recognized the signs of placental abruption." Ngozi closed her eyes. Even now, Obina was protecting his reputation, making it seem like her collapse was sudden and unexpected rather than the result of hours of being ignored and locked away. "Where is my husband now?" "He went home to change clothes. He said he'll be back in the morning." Of course he did. He probably went home to Amina to celebrate his successful business meeting, the meeting that had cost their child's life. Dr. Emeka pulled up a chair beside her bed. "Ngozi, I have to tell you something. I know who you are. I was at your presentation in Abuja 2 years ago about your pain-free delivery technique. Your work has saved thousands of women from unnecessary suffering." She stared at him. "You know about my research?" "The entire medical community knows about Dr. Chidinma's work. We've been wondering why you disappeared from conferences and publications. Some of us thought you might have moved abroad." "I got married," she said simply. "I thought being a wife and mother was more important than being a doctor." Dr. Emeka shook his head sadly. "The world needs brilliant women like you in medicine. Your husband should be proud of what you've accomplished." Proud. Ngozi almost laughed. Her husband didn't even know she was Dr. Chidinma. He had been chasing her professional reputation for months while treating her like an uneducated housewife. "Doctor," she said slowly, "I need you to do something for me. Anything. I need you to make some phone calls to medical equipment suppliers, hospital administrators, conference organizers. Tell them that Dr. Chidinma is ready to return to active practice. Dr. Emeka looked confused. But you just lost your baby. Surely you need time to grieve, to heal. My baby is dead because I wasn't respected as a doctor, because I let someone convince me that my medical expertise was less important than being a perfect wife. Ngozi's voice grew stronger with each word. That will never happen again. She thought about Obinna downstairs earlier, bragging about Dr. Chidinma to his potential investors, talking about how selective she was, how difficult it would be to secure a partnership with her. He was about to learn exactly how selective Dr. Chidinma could be, and how expensive it would be to cross her. 2 weeks after burying their baby, Ngozi sat in the conference room of Lagos Medical Center, watching her husband pace nervously outside through the glass walls. He had no idea she was inside. To him, she was still the grieving housewife at home, too depressed to leave her bedroom. But Dr. Chidinma was very much alive. The investors from Abuja are getting impatient, Dr. Emeka whispered beside her. Your husband has been calling my office daily, begging for this meeting with you. Ngozi adjusted her white coat and checked her watch. 3 months of intensive work had transformed her back into the confident professional she used to be. Her revolutionary pain-free delivery technique was now being used in 12 countries. Medical journals were fighting to publish her latest research, and every major hospital in Nigeria wanted Dr. Chidinma as their consultant. Send him in, she said calmly. The door opened, and Obinna walked in, his best suit pressed and his smile bright with hope. Behind him trailed Amina, wearing a tight dress and carrying a briefcase like she belonged in this meeting. Dr. Chidinma. Obinna rushed forward with his hand extended. Thank you so much for agreeing to see us. I'm Obinna Kalu, and this is my business partner, Amina. Business partner. Ngozi almost smiled, so that's what they were calling it now. Please sit down. She gestured to the chairs across from her, keeping her voice professionally neutral. Obinna couldn't stop talking. Doctor, I've been following your work for months. Your childbirth technique is exactly what Nigeria needs. My company imports medical equipment, and with your endorsement, we could revolutionize healthcare across West Africa. Tell me about your company, Ngozi said, leaning back in her chair. We've been in business for 5 years, focusing on bringing affordable medical technology to Nigerian hospitals. But honestly, doctor, we need a medical professional of your caliber to validate our work. The investors won't move forward without a partnership with someone like you. Someone like her. Not her. Someone like her. What makes you think I would be interested in working with your company? She asked. Amina leaned forward eagerly. Dr. Chidinma, we understand you're selective, but this partnership could benefit everyone. Mr. Kalu has connections throughout Nigeria, and together we could help millions of women. Millions of women. The irony was suffocating. I see. Ngozi opened the file on the table in front of her. I've done some research on your company, Mr. Kalu. Your financial records show significant losses over the past 2 years. Several suppliers have filed complaints about late payments, and according to my sources, you're about to lose your business license unless you secure major funding within the next month. Obinna's face went pale. Who told you that? I'm a careful businesswoman, Mr. Kalu. I don't partner with failing companies or unreliable people. She looked directly at him. Tell me, in your personal life, are you a man who honors his commitments? Of course. I'm a family man, a devoted husband. My wife is pregnant with our first child, actually. The lie hit Ngozi like a physical blow. Their baby was dead and buried, and he was using the pregnancy as a business strategy. Worse, he was talking about her like she was still carrying their child, like the tragedy had never happened. Your wife is pregnant? Ngozi repeated slowly. 7 months, Obinna said proudly. She's at home resting. Doctor's orders, you know. I take very good care of her. Amina shifted uncomfortably in her seat but said nothing. "How wonderful," Ngozi said, her voice like ice. "And you're here instead of with her during such an important time?" "Business is business, doctor. A man has to provide for his family. My wife understands that." "Does she? Have you asked her opinion about this partnership?" Obinna laughed. "My wife doesn't understand business matters. She used to be educated, but pregnancy makes women emotional and irrational. I make the important decisions for our family." Dr. Emeka coughed and looked away. He knew exactly who Obinna was talking about. "I see." Ngozi stood up and walked to the window. "Mr. Kalu, what if I told you that your wife is more qualified to advise you on this partnership than you realize?" "What do you mean?" "What if I told you that she's a doctor herself? A gynecologist, in fact." Obinna waved his hand dismissively. "That was years ago. She hasn't practiced medicine since we got married. She chose to focus on being a wife and mother instead." "She chose? Or you chose for her?" "Doctor, I don't understand what my personal life has to do with this business partnership." Ngozi turned around slowly. "It has everything to do with it, Mr. Kalu. You see, I've built my reputation on respecting women, on giving them choices about their own bodies and their own lives. I don't work with men who diminish their wives or treat women as less than equal partners. But I respect women. I'm trying to help millions of Nigerian women with this medical equipment venture. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you only respect women when they can make you money." Ngozi walked back to the table and placed her hands flat on its surface. "Tell me, if your wife went into labor right now, what would you do?" "I'd take her to the hospital, of course." "Would you? Even if you were in the middle of the most important business meeting of your life?" Obinna hesitated. "That's a hypothetical question." "Is it?" "Because I have information suggesting that you once locked your wife in a bedroom while she was having a medical emergency, prioritizing a business meeting over her life and the life of your unborn child." The blood drained from Obinna's face. Amina grabbed his arm. "How could you possibly know about—" Obinna stopped, his eyes widening with sudden terrible understanding. Ngozi reached up and slowly removed the medical mask she'd been wearing throughout the meeting. For the first time, her husband saw her face clearly. "Hello, Obinna," she said quietly. "It's nice to finally meet the famous Dr. Chidinma, isn't it?" The briefcase fell from Amina's hands, scattering papers across the floor. Obinna staggered backward, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. "Ngozi," he whispered. "Actually, in this office I prefer Dr. Chidinma, the woman you've been desperately trying to meet for months, the woman whose expertise could have saved your business, the woman you locked in a bedroom while your child was dying." Obinna collapsed into his chair. But you're my wife." "I was your wife. Now I'm the doctor who's going to make sure you never hurt another woman the way you hurt me." She pressed a button on the conference room phone. "Security, please escort these people out of the building. Mr. Kalu and Ms. Amina are no longer welcome here." As security guards entered the room, Ngozi looked directly at her husband one last time. "Oh, and Obinna? The investors from Abuja? They've already signed an exclusive contract with my clinic. They won't be needing your services after all." 6 months later, Dr. Ngozi Chidinma stood at the podium of the International Women's Health Conference in Abuja, looking out at an audience of over 1,000 medical professionals from across Africa. The woman who had once been locked in a bedroom while her baby died was now being honored with the continent's highest award for medical innovation. "Ladies and gentlemen," the conference chairman announced, "this year's recipient of the African Medical Excellence Award has revolutionized childbirth across our continent. Her pain-free delivery technique has been adopted by hospitals in 23 countries, saving countless women from unnecessary suffering. Please welcome Dr. Ngozi Chidinma." The applause was thunderous. Ngozi walked to the microphone, her white coat replaced by an elegant blue dress that commanded respect. In the audience, she spotted familiar faces, colleagues who had watched her disappear from medicine years ago, now witnessing her triumphant return. "Thank you," she began, her voice clear and strong. "2 years ago, I made a choice that almost cost me everything. I chose to step away from medicine to support a marriage that I thought was built on love and mutual respect. I was wrong." The audience grew quiet, hanging on every word. "I learned that respect cannot be sacrificed for love, and that a woman's value should never be measured by how much of herself she's willing to give up for others. Today, I stand before you not just as a doctor, but as a woman who chose to reclaim her life." In the back of the auditorium, she noticed a figure slipping in through the rear doors. Even from a distance, she recognized Obinna's desperate posture. He had been trying to contact her for months, begging for meetings, sending flowers, even showing up at her clinic, but she had built walls that no amount of apology could breach. "The technique we're celebrating today was born from pain," she continued. "It exists because I refuse to let my suffering be meaningless. Every woman who gives birth without unnecessary agony honors the child I lost and the strength I found in my darkest moment." As she spoke, Ngozi saw Amina enter the auditorium as well, her belly round with pregnancy. The sight should have hurt, but instead, Ngozi felt only pity. The young woman had no idea what she had gotten herself into. In our culture, women are often told that sacrifice is love, that giving up our dreams proves our devotion. But I'm here to tell you that real love elevates us, challenges us to be our best selves, and celebrates our achievements rather than diminishing them. The applause interrupted her speech. When it died down, she noticed Obinna moving closer to the stage, his face desperate and pleading. "Today, I'm announcing the establishment of the Chidinma Foundation for Women's Health. This foundation will provide free medical care to women whose husbands or families prevent them from accessing health care. No woman should ever die because someone else controls her choices." Another round of applause erupted. Ngozi saw several audience members wiping away tears. "We will also offer business training and medical education scholarships specifically for women who want to return to careers they've abandoned for family obligations, because it's never too late to reclaim your life." As she concluded her speech and stepped down from the podium, Obinna intercepted her path to the exit. "Ngozi, please," he said, grabbing her arm. "I need to talk to you." She looked down at his hand on her arm, then up at his face. The confident businessman was gone, replaced by a broken man with hollow eyes and rumpled clothes. "You have 30 seconds, she said. "I've lost everything. The business is gone. The house is being foreclosed. Amina, she left me when the money ran out. She's pregnant, and she won't even tell me if the baby is mine. That's not my problem, Obinna. But we were married. We took vows, for better or worse, remember?" Ngozi's laugh was cold. "You broke those vows the day you chose a business meeting over our dying child. You broke them every time you diminished my intelligence, my career, my worth as a human being. I was stupid. I was scared. I didn't know you were Dr. Chidinma. If I had known..." "If you had known, you would have used my reputation to save your failing business while still treating me like a servant at home. You didn't love me, Obinna. You loved the idea of controlling me." Tears streamed down his face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make this right. There is nothing you can do. Our baby is dead because of your choices. Our marriage is dead because of your betrayal. And the woman you thought you married never existed. I was always Dr. Chidinma. You just refused to see her." Security guards approached, having noticed the disturbance. "Ma'am, is this man bothering you?" one asked. "Yes," Ngozi said without hesitation. "Please escort him out." As the guards led Obinna away, he called over his shoulder, "Ngozi, I love you. I've always loved you." She watched him disappear through the auditorium doors, feeling nothing but relief. Love wasn't possession. Love wasn't diminishment. Love wasn't sacrifice without appreciation. Love was what she felt for herself now. Respect, admiration, and unlimited possibility. Dr. Emeka approached her with a warm smile. "That was the most powerful speech I've ever heard. You've inspired every woman in this room." "And hopefully some of the men, too," she replied. "What's next for the famous Dr. Chidinma?" Ngozi looked around the auditorium at the hundreds of medical professionals, researchers, and advocates who had gathered to celebrate progress in women's health. These were her people. This was her world. This was where she belonged. "Next, I'm going to change the world," she said simply. "One woman at a time." 6 months later, Ngozi received a wedding invitation. Obinna was marrying Amina in a small ceremony. She threw the invitation in the trash without opening it fully, but not before noticing that it was printed on cheap paper, a far cry from the elaborate wedding they had once planned together. That same day, she received news that her foundation had been approved for international funding. The Chidinma Foundation would soon open clinics in 5 African countries, providing free healthcare and education to women who needed it most. As she sat in her new office overlooking Lagos, Ngozi thought about the woman she used to be, the brilliant doctor who had almost lost herself in someone else's dreams. That woman was gone, buried alongside the baby who had never drawn breath. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, and completely free. Dr. Ngozi Chidinma had finally come home to herself.